In the vast plains between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, one of humanity's first great civilizations emerged. This land, later called Mesopotamia, provided fertile soil but demanded constant human effort to control floods and droughts. Around the late 4th millennium BC, scattered farming villages began transforming into organized urban centers. These early communities laid the foundations of Sumerian civilization through cooperation, irrigation, and shared religious traditions. The Sumerians did not form a single empire at first, but a network of independent city-states, each with its own ruler and patron deity. Cities like Uruk, Ur, Lagash, and Kish grew as hubs of trade, craftsmanship, and worship. The rise of Sumer was driven by innovation, necessity, and human ambition, marking a turning point when humanity shifted from simple agrarian life to complex urban society.
As Sumerian cities expanded, social organization became more complex. Leadership evolved from councils of elders to powerful kings known as Lugal, believed to rule with divine favor. Religion shaped every aspect of life, with each city devoted to a specific god or goddess. Monumental temples, precursors to ziggurats, rose at city centers as symbols of both faith and authority. Economic systems developed around surplus grain, enabling specialization of labor. Artisans, merchants, priests, and scribes emerged as distinct social roles. Trade networks extended far beyond Mesopotamia, bringing timber, stone, and metals into a land lacking natural resources. This growth marked the transformation of Sumerian society into a sophisticated urban civilization defined by hierarchy, belief, and economic exchange.
One of Sumer's most enduring contributions was the invention of writing. Initially developed to manage economic transactions, cuneiform script was pressed into clay tablets using reed styluses. Over time, writing expanded beyond accounting to record laws, prayers, myths, and historical events. Knowledge could now be preserved across generations, strengthening state administration and cultural identity. Schools trained scribes in this complex system, elevating literacy as a powerful social tool. Writing allowed rulers to formalize authority and temples to standardize rituals. Through cuneiform, the Sumerians transformed human communication, leaving behind records that still speak across millennia. At the height of Sumerian civilization, city-states competed and cooperated in equal measure. Rivalries over land and water led to frequent conflicts, while alliances formed through trade and diplomacy. Military organization improved, with infantry armed by spears and shields defending city walls. Despite conflict, this era also produced cultural brilliance. Architecture advanced with massive ziggurats towering over cities. Art flourished through sculpture, cylinder seals, and intricate jewelry. Religious mythology expanded, exploring humanity's relationship with the gods. This period represented Sumer's golden age, when creativity, governance, and belief reached remarkable heights. Sumerian society was carefully structured. At the top stood kings and priests, followed by merchants and artisans, while farmers and laborers formed the majority. Slavery existed, often tied to debt rather than permanent status. Law codes emerged to regulate behavior, property, and commerce, reflecting an early sense of justice and order. Women held varied roles, participating in economic life and religious duties, though power remained largely male-dominated. Education focused on producing skilled scribes, essential to administration. This internal system allowed Sumerian cities to function efficiently, balancing authority, economy, and social stability. Despite achievements, Sumer faced mounting challenges. Environmental strain from irrigation led to soil salinization, reducing crop yields. City rivalries intensified, draining resources through constant warfare. External pressures grew as neighboring peoples observed Sumer's wealth. Political instability weakened unity, making coordinated defense difficult. These stresses marked a turning point, revealing vulnerabilities beneath Sumer's brilliance. The civilization that pioneered urban life now struggled to sustain it, as ecological and political limits became increasingly apparent. As Sumer's internal weaknesses deepened, external powers increasingly took advantage of the situation. Among them were the Akkadians, a Semitic-speaking people from northern Mesopotamia who gradually expanded their influence over the region. With stronger political coordination and military organization, Akkadian leaders succeeded in unifying many Sumerian city-states under a single imperial authority. Independent Sumerian kings lost their power, and the long tradition of autonomous city rule came to an end. However, Sumerian culture itself did not disappear. Writing systems, religious practices, administrative methods, and artistic traditions were preserved and adopted by the new rulers. Sumerian scribes continued to serve in government roles, ensuring cultural continuity. This period marked the political decline of Sumer, but also demonstrated how its intellectual and cultural achievements survived conquest and shaped the emerging imperial order of Mesopotamia. After the fall of Akkadian dominance, Sumer experienced brief periods of revival under later dynasties that attempted to restore order and tradition. Temples were repaired, administrative systems were revived, and efforts were made to strengthen agriculture and trade. Despite these attempts, the damage caused by centuries of environmental stress could not be undone. Soil salinization continued to reduce agricultural productivity, while irrigation networks suffered from neglect. At the same time, trade routes shifted toward new political centers elsewhere in Mesopotamia. Emerging powers drew population, wealth, and influence away from the ancient Sumerian heartland. Gradually, Sumerian cities lost their economic importance and political relevance. This decline was slow and quiet, marked not by sudden destruction, but by steady abandonment and fading prominence in a rapidly changing regional landscape. Although Sumer vanished as an independent political power, its legacy endured across the ancient world. The foundations of writing, law, urban administration, and religious thought developed by the Sumerians were inherited by later Mesopotamian civilizations. Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians all relied on Sumerian knowledge, preserving it through cuneiform texts copied and studied for centuries. Sumerian myths shaped religious traditions, while legal and administrative practices influenced imperial governance. The experience of Sumer also offered lasting lessons about environmental limits, social organization, and the fragility of complex societies. Through its achievements and failures alike, Sumer helped define the path of early civilization and left an intellectual legacy that continued long after its cities had fallen into ruin. The rise and fall of the Sumerian civilization represents one of humanity's most important historical journeys. From small farming communities to complex urban centers, Sumer pioneered ideas that define civilization itself. Its innovations in writing, law, religion, and governance shaped the structure of societies that followed. Yet its decline revealed the dangers of environmental mismanagement, political fragmentation, and overextension. Although Sumer's cities were eventually abandoned, their influence never disappeared. Through preserved knowledge and cultural transmission, Sumer became the foundation upon which later civilizations were built. The story of Sumer reminds us that civilizations are shaped by human choices and natural limits, and that even the greatest achievements must be sustained to endure across time.